Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Today I want to get into a question from my audience. This came to me through Discord, and the conversation is around investing in Splinterlands, growing what you're doing here on a budget, and thinking through what is the best approach right now. Is it SPS? Is it DC? Is it cards? Is it packs? Is it waiting for legendary summoners? There's a lot of different options, and those are only a few of them. There's many, many more. What's the best way to grow what you're doing here right now in Splinterlands? I think that's a worthwhile conversation. And I'm going to read the question before we go any further so you can hear the situation this person is in. And then out of that, what advice comes, okay? Before we do, though, my name is Dwayne Cunningham, and I go by Infidel1258. And on the channel, we cover Splinterlands all day, every day, because it's changed my life, and I think it could change yours. So without further ado, let's get into it. The question goes like this. Hey man, I was wondering if you could give me some advice on my personal Splinterlands journey. I invested about $3,000 so far. I've got 2 accounts in gold, 3. That's really important. That means he has 100,000 power on each of them. And he says they each have 3 summoners, which are level 5, and got Chaos Legion cards upgraded to decent levels for that. So I've also got 7,000 SPS, and I was planning to get $2,500 more to invest into something. But because of budgeting problems, constraints, it's more like 350 bucks that he's ready to invest in. And he'll only be getting $100 that I can safely invest each month for the next year or so. So looking at like $100 budget monthly, trying to imagine growing out of low gold into say diamond or beyond. What are sort of the possible focal points that could really move the needle in a meaningful way with that limited budget? I definitely believe there are major growth opportunities for somebody who is willing to contribute. Forget about 100. He's talking $100 a month. Yes, that is definitely enough. But honestly, if you are willing to invest your time and attention in this game, I think that is going to meaningfully grow into something, even across the time horizons that I'm talking about, like around 4 years. As we move between full bull market cycles, I expect contributions of any sort of value, any sort of significance, including time and attention, are going to do that for you. You're going to be surprised what it turns into. So $100 is enough. And don't be discouraged, guys, by the idea. Probably some of you feel like you're so far behind. You wish you were here sooner. You wish you got started, 3-4 years ago too. You wish you even 3-4 months before you did, right? Like there's always these concerns and self-doubts around whether you can have a meaningful impact and a meaningful opportunity. And there's these whispers of self-doubt that really will distract you from your ultimate progress anyways. Try to set those down. Try to understand that even if things could be better had you arrived sooner, recognize that you're here now, and in this moment certain choices can move you toward your ultimate goals. That's the first piece of advice I want my friend Ivan to receive, and hopefully you too, guys. Okay, so he goes on and he says, I was wondering, what would you do personally in my place? Would you forget about buying SPS as it's not significant enough to, and buy, like he's talking dollar value, $100 a month, maybe that's not significant enough. That's kind of question number one. Or would you forget about buying cards? Thinking, because there's not going to be significant APR on the cards if he gets those. So he's feeling kind of down about that limited investment, and he's feeling like it's not adequate enough. Like I said a moment ago, it is adequate enough. It definitely is. And just because you can't be, whether it's fitness, employment, any sort of growth, the question isn't, can you move from where you're at into perfection? That's not the question. The question at hand always in Splinterlands also is this: can you move from where you're at into something greater by making some certain intelligent, thoughtful steps unto something bigger, right? That's absolutely the case, and growth is possible no matter where you're starting, no matter what your starting point is. If you can afford in Splinterlands a $10 starter pack, you will see profit and growth if you invest time and attention and nothing else. That is absolutely for sure. Now that'll take a long time, and your horizon and the sort of the significance of that growth will be dramatically different from somebody who is bringing in thousands of dollars to start up with, or for instance, $100 a month. So there's different journeys for different people, but the trajectory is going to be, the intention is to walk into a game like this, or for that matter, your own fitness or whatever, your marriage or whatever the case may be, and say, to humbly acknowledge that you're not where you want to be, and then imagine where you would desire to end up, and take some small steps along the way to move yourself toward, not precisely result ending, and not knowing exactly where you're going to land, but trying to take some small steps to aim and progress toward that goal, that ultimate goal. And so he's got a goal to grow what he's doing here in Splinterlands. He's got a $100 budget. Yes, that's enough. Understand that. That's enough. And it is significant. And there are big things you can do. And so he talks about SPS. He talks about cards. He talks specifically about buying Chaos Legion legendary summoners because of how getting them to gold level, implying that he understands how meaningful those will be. So those are going to be the three main considerations I want to look at now moving forward. We're going to talk about SPS. We're going to talk about generally buying cards for maybe from an APR standpoint, like rental, from a rental standpoint, generating revenue. And then we're going to talk about Chaos Legion summoners and the legendary Chaos Legion summoners and what that might do for you if you focus there. Because it's true, $100 is not going to buy you everything that you want, or even probably even that you quote unquote need. But recognize that you don't need to move from 0 to 100. You can move from 0 to 1, and that is progress. And he finishes by saying, or would you do something entirely different? So we're actually we'll talk about those three things: SPS, cards for rental purpose, and legendary summoners. And then we'll just broadly talk about any sort of alternative options, like waiting for Rift Watchers or whatever else. Okay. So yeah, first things first, $100 is a lot. If you had $50 or $10 or even zero, but you just played with your time and attention, that's going to add to something meaningful across a long enough time horizon. That's my firm belief, and I think it's borne out with evidence from my own experience. But of the three choices, and if you had a $100 budget, I would say to you that buying SPS at this moment could be really meaningful in say, like a 4-year time horizon. But here's the problem. Calculator. Here's the problem with buying SPS. SPS is currently 9.2 cents. So you got $100 a month. 100. Oops. No, come on. 100 divided by 0.92. You could buy 1,000 SPS a month at this rate, which is not inconsequential. He said he has 1,000 right now. That's a big jump forward for you. If you're starting at 7,000, you're adding 1,000 every month. And if you could theoretically do that every month for the rest of this year, that would be really huge. That would add 12,000 SPS to your 7,000 current total, which is a huge leap forward. That is, in my mind, in the long run, that would be a gigantic and monumental positive benefit for what you're able to accumulate and do here in Splinterlands. SPS is so key and so pivotal to the future revenue generating opportunities available in this game that yes, you want more of it. Everyone should know this, guys. You need more SPS. You don't have enough. There will come a time where you're going to say, man, I wish I had more. I wish I took advantage of 9-cent SPS. I wish I took advantage of recently there was 6-cent SPS. I think at some point in the bear market, we'll see much lower prices. And so then I already know some of your minds right now when I say that, you're immediately thinking, well, I'll just wait till it gets cheaper. No, you won't. If that's your attitude, you will miss the boat. No one knows when the bottom is in. No one. And so if you don't start buying now, you won't buy later. That's just how our psychology works. If you aren't willing to take a bite in this moment, a 9.2 cent SPS, when it gets to 6 cents, you'll still have a dissenting view. You'll still continue to say, well, it might get cheaper. And it might get cheaper at 5. You'll say it might get cheaper at 4. It might get cheaper. It'll be down at 1 cent and you'll still won't take a bite because you've got this attitude of maybe I don't want to miss the bottom. I don't want to buy it too early. And that indecision is crippling to your progress. You don't need to find the bottom. You just need to make a choice, that the best choice you can make right now. That's all you can ever do when you're seeking personal growth in anything. And growth in this game is no different than generalized personal growth. And so this is a strong candidate. I'm not saying I'm voting for SPS. I want to look at the other options first, but this is a strong candidate right now at 9.2 cents. This is an interesting buying time. And I'd say this is a meaningful turnaround for $100 today. Especially since I believe firmly that SPS is destined for much bigger numbers. I think SPS will be $1 or even multiple dollars in the future. I really believe that. And again, I hope if you're not new to the channel, I hope you'll hear me that I am not the sort of guy that just constantly is calling for, financial growth. I am cognizant of the fact that we go through bear markets and that these prices will decline, and that there will be moments where everyone, maybe myself included, will say, oh man, I'm disinterested in this game at this moment because the bear market has a pressure on us. It has a weight, and I expect that to come, that pressure and that weight to return, as it always does with cryptocurrency. And so Splinterlands, I expect to be insulated from that, but not perfectly. And so we will feel that burden also. And my point is that there will be hard times where you're gonna not want to step into it. But if you are consciously planning through that, and you're committing to walk through that and like continue reinvestment, you're gonna find, I think, that you're gonna see so much growth at the end of that journey, like as we come into the next bull market. And so this might go down to a penny. I don't know. I kind of think it might, eventually. But in the meantime, it might go up to 50 cents before it goes down to a penny. I don't know what the story is, and neither do you. But for me, 10 cent, 9 cent SPS is so worth it. I think $1 is very easily in the future for SPS. I think $5 is possible. Now, maybe that's years away, but frankly, moving from 9 cents to $1 is a gigantic magnification of an investment. And if that was what you felt was possible, then this is a worthwhile investment, right? But it begins with, does the game have future? Is the game fun, and does it have a future? And if so, then maybe SPS makes sense. I think it is fun and it has a future. And I think SPS is going to be meaningful in terms of garnering rank rewards, in terms of garnering more SPS payouts due to staking, in terms of garnering access to certain tournaments, and so on and so forth. There's a million different things that are going to make this product meaningful, governance votes within the game, and so on and so forth. So I think this is a huge candidate, and I think this price is really low. Even if I do believe at some point in the future it's going to go lower, that is neither here nor there, because at some point in the future I think it's going to go higher. And so the question is not whether 9 cents is the lowest price possible. The question is, do you have a long-term vision, and are you willing to dollar cost average in? If so, this is a good starting point. So SPS is a great choice, but let's go on to the other considerations before we, I guess, give a final opinion. So the second one he mentioned was Chaos Legion cards. And so let's pop over to Peak Monsters. Oh, that's not it. Pop over to Peak Monsters. And again, we see that card prices are up a little again today. My total is around 72,600 on my main account. And that tells me that prices are continuing to tick up. Now, he talked about APR. What is APR? Annual percentage rate. This phrase APR refers to the idea. It's like it's a measurement for results. It's a measurement for returns on an asset. And so when you borrow a loan, there'd be a certain amount of APR, a certain amount of interest that return that you are expected to pay on top of the principal. And so he's saying, I have $100. If I bought cards with that, I could get X amount of APR from the rental income that would come out of that. Like specifically, I'm buying them for investment, long-term hold, but also the ROI on holding it, the return on investment for holding it through the rental market could be substantial. And I think that's true. It absolutely could be substantial. $100 is not inconsequential. It is significant. And if you were to come into the marketplace and just make some choices about, and this is going to be different on everybody's, in everybody's situation, but assuming you had $100 to spend, you know, you'd have to first think through what cards are going to be meaningful long-term in terms of maximizing the possibility for future appreciation, but simultaneously thinking through desirability from a rental. Okay, so that's two different things. One, the first thing is, will this card go up in value? And the second thing is, will this card generate significant rental returns? And certain cards will do one and not the other, and certain cards will do both. I would argue that certain key cards that are like tanks or carry cards or summoners are going to offer you probably both of these opportunities. Significant price appreciation and significant ROI on the rental income. Of the cards that would probably generate the most significant price appreciation, I think you need to look at some of these commons that are really, really significant and quality, including Pellicor Mercenary, which you've heard me talk about. The thing about this card is you need 400 copies to get a max level. That means 399 copies are being burnt every single time somebody gets a max level. That's a lot of burn mechanic happening. Now, you might argue that many copies exist and that'll take a long time to translate into significant deflation. Yes, but be patient. That's why we talk about a 4-year or a 5-year time horizon. Is it going to turn from 2 cents into $20 in 6 months? Of course not. Is it going to turn from 2 cents to 50 cents in the next 4 years? I think really very significant possibility that's true. Even from 2 cents to $1 is possible in my opinion, which would be roughly a 50x. And so that's a huge price appreciation over 4 years. Huge, life-changing. $100 a month times 50x, right? That's a big return. That's turning from $100 into, I think that's $5,000, turning $100 into $5,000. That's what I'm talking about here. And that's just the price appreciation component. This is one card I've talked to you repeatedly that I'm super confident will appreciate in that way. And because it's got it is a good card. It's got a great kit, and the card utility is really important. It happens to be a tank. Tanks are necessary. It happens to have high hit point pool, good amount of damage, decent speed. It's functional at every level. In fact, I would say it's good at every level. And that makes it desirable from bronze all the way up to champion. And because it's desirable at champion, that's going to incentivize a lot of burn mechanics to happen. And that's going to pull down that supply. And this is one example of where that'll go well for you. But you guys can take that example and apply that thinking to the Pellicor Deceiver. Does that offer the same sort of considerations? Like, again, it's a common card. You need 400 copies to burn it. It's a tank. It's got a good amount of damage at least in like silver and beyond. This thing is a solid tank for 5 mana. And I think it's quite good at the higher levels. So I don't think this is as good as a mercenary, but I think it's a sound card. And for the same reasons, I expect significant price appreciation. And you can walk through that thought experiment for any card on this page and think for yourself how that's going to translate in the future. And you can sometimes even take the card and look at old versions that are usually way down here. If you're looking at a green card, if you're looking at a green tank, where is he? If you're looking at a green, I don't see it anymore. There he is. If you're looking at a green tank, then look for another green tank that offers something similar. I would say that puts you something like this Orc Splitter with a decent amount of damage, a little bit of armor, retaliate. It's a lot like this card, and it's also something like Flesh Golem. I won't beat that point to death because we've talked about it so many times, but this is important because when you're trying to analyze the future value of a card, you can do a lot of things. Looking at its kit, understanding how important it is to the development of that specific splinter. A tank is obviously important. And then comparing it to other cards and the utility they offer and how their prices have appreciated, because you can learn that information. If you want to know how much Flesh Golem has gone up, You can go to sites like Summoner Lab and go over to green, go to beta. Where is he? Find the flesh column. And they track. Actually, it's not that. It's. Want to look at prices? I think it's explore. No, it's charts. Charts, and we'll go look up green beta. There he is. And look at this is the 1 year data, and you can see roughly a year ago it was like $1.79 or so. Is that right? No. Yeah, it was around $1 or $1.79. If I zoomed right in, I could see more. But the point is, we're around $5.18 now. So that's about a 5x in the last year. And before, like 2 years ago, this thing was trading for a penny. And so that sort of opportunity exists still and will exist for you in certain investments that you might take. So $100 could turn into $5,000. And that's a monthly investment we're talking about. So that's really, really huge. And that's just... Remember, that's only part of the puzzle. That's the price appreciation element. But what about the ROI on the rentals? We know for a fact that rentals are quite significant. And I think it's worth noting that I think rental prices are going to become more stable and be more sustained at a high level throughout the entire season of this game as we move into the new ranked battle rewards and how you can potentially get 30 loot chests or more per day. That increased loot chest opportunity per day is going to mean that there's more desire for rental cards every single day of the season as opposed to just at the end of the season. And I think that's going to mean that you're going to see significant ROI on rental cards, and so I do strongly believe that if you're putting $100 into cards for the purpose of generating rental, then that's an interesting proposition. You're essentially buying a portfolio of stocks that pay dividends. Every one of these cards is a stock. It pays you a dividend. The dividend is the rental, the daily rental income. And certain cards are not going to be strong rental cards. This is not, even though this is a strong price appreciation card, it's not going to be a strong rental card. There's too many of them, and I would argue the cost is too cheap. So most people are just going to buy it for themselves. So what you either want to do is buy it for a speculation, thinking it's going to appreciate in several years, or you look at a different card and try and say, well, what would significantly rent? What's a significant rental card? I think one thing you can do is look at gold cards. That's one. Gold cards can be, and then you don't want to look at commons really. They're too easy. Like 40 cents, somebody's going to buy one. They're just going to buy one. They're not going to come renting yours, mostly, right? And so what I would argue is you actually want to look at cards that are going to be legendaries or epics maybe. And some of these cards, like $63 for the Jin Oceanus, super cheap. Harklaw 53. Recently, Jin Bilka was about $40 per BCX, and the rental revenues were generating roughly like $25 per year on a Jin Bilka. Like, look, if I bought this for $53, it's going to cost me 48,000 DEC. 48,000 DEC to buy one. And then if we go over to rent, let's go gold, legendary. So it's going to cost me to rent. It's going to cost me 416 DEC per day. Now, 416 DEC per day times 365. That's going to generate 150,000 DEC per annum. Now, that's a bit skewed because we're at the end of the season. So this price is higher. But my point is, the rental revenue can pay off this card. It can, and therefore there is ROI to be had on buying these cards, but it's not generally on these cheap little reward cards. So understand that there's price appreciation opportunities, and there's ROI on rental that you can look at, and those are two different investment opportunities, and $100 could be meaningful in either direction, but they're different approaches. Sometimes a card is both a price appreciation investment and a rental revenue, and that's rare, but you can think that through too. Like gold foil, I would argue, yeah, that's rare. So think that through. I would argue either way is a great choice. And I do think focusing on rental revenue can be a huge play, especially as our game is evolving into the new rank reward system which is going to generate more daily profits from loot chests, and therefore is going to incentivize greater sustained rental pressures on the market. Because from day 1 to day 15 of every season, you need cards because you want to get those daily loot chests. That's going to be a positive influence on the rental market for owners, not for renters, for owners. It's going to drive prices up and keep them there more consistently across the duration of the season. And so I have to say right now, I'm probably leaning towards the rental revenue, and looking specifically at gold foils and legendaries, because these are really, really cheap and the rental revenues are quite substantial. And I think will be even more so as we move into the new rental market. But let's continue to go on forward, because there was more to his question. So we looked at SPS, we looked at generic, just broadly cards, cards from an APR standpoint, cards from just a price appreciation standpoint. And the third thing that he wanted me to look at specifically was legendary summoners. We already know Wraith is coming. Grandmaster Wraith, and I did this 26-minute video in which I summarize certain key cards. The first 15 minutes is roughly me talking about what key monsters exist are going to really synergize well with him, and therefore probably represent a buying opportunity in the short term. This is a meaningful summoner. The summoner is going to really, really impact the life splinter. And I think we're going to see absolutely that all the other legendary summoners that are yet to come, that are coming as a product of this Chaos Legion release, these airdrops, every one of these is going to be a legendary summoner, and they're going to be meta redefining. I'm not saying they'll necessarily be better than, for instance, Kitty or Yodin, or even Llama, but they're going to be excellent in their own right. We know Wraith's stats, and I'm certain that it's going to be impactful. I expect every other legendary summoner to be equally or more so impactful for their own splinter and the context that represents. So these are a huge opportunity. And this is kind of related to the question we were just talking about, like, would you buy cards and for investment purposes or APR? Those are, but because we're talking here about just buying on legendary summoners, there's just more cards. But it's different, because this is actually more like a question around, what if I bought certain cards to improve my deck? Because there's 3 reasons why you'd want to buy cards. 1, investment purpose. 2, rental revenue. 3, to improve your deck. And that's what this conversation is around. If you buy these legendary summoners, especially to the gold level, like he was suggesting, you're going to be creating a real new opportunity for yourself to get more wins on and have more fun with the game, and therefore to get, because of the more fun and more wins, you're going to see more R shares, which is those reward shares, and that's going to generate more loot chests. That's going to mean more profit, and that's going to tick up your investment. It's going to tick up your returns, your daily returns, because it's going to increase the number of loot chests you're getting. But definitely, these legendary summoners are going to represent the first 2 points also. The rental revenues, for sure. If you don't want to use it, they'll rent for sure. And then the price appreciation opportunity, because they are summoners, and summoners are always a bottleneck for this game. Everyone needs summoners, and the best summoners appreciate the most wildly because they are so key and meta defining and useful in so many games. Whereas a specific tank, even a good one like the Pellicor Mercenary, is only good in certain contexts, only where the Earth Splinter is playable, and then perhaps specifically only where melee is functional, because sometimes it's not, or maybe where flight is desired, because that makes it extra better. But there are contexts where that card will not be functional or will not be playable, and therefore is less impressive. Whereas summoners have more opportunity to have an impact on your deck. And so this is probably, I think rental revenue would be my heart for $100 a month, but I almost say rental revenue in the context of focusing on holes, patching holes in your own deck, improving your own deck, focusing on these legendary summoners, because they represent the best of all three of these interests: price appreciation, rental revenue, and making your deck better. That to me is like kind of the perfect balance of what you want to be aiming at when you're trying to improve what you're doing here, and the opportunity to generate revenue for your time and attention. You want to access you want to be able to anticipate some amount of price appreciation. You want to have access to some possible rental revenue. And lastly, you want to increase the power and utility of your deck by adding new cards that are going to really be meaningful. These legendary summoners are for sure all three. Wraith is a good example. I think if the other summoners are anything like this power level, you're going to need to have them. You're going to want to have them. And in times where you decide, I don't really want to play Splinterlands this season, maybe you get bored of it, those are going to generate rental revenue. And over the years to come, they're going to appreciate significantly, as we've seen with Jotun and Llama. Jotun used to sell for 20 bucks a unit. Now it's like $400 a unit or something like that. What is Jotun selling for? Jotun selling for $350 per BCX. Llama, I've told you before, I sold all my scarred llamas for $7 a BCX. So the legendary summoners is probably where I'm going with this, for all of those benefits. But before we conclude on that, I just want to quickly say, what about the other options? Because there's Rift Watchers coming out soon. There's vouchers that are really inexpensive right now. There's validator nodes and I think those are going to appreciate all of these opportunities. Land has gotten cheap. Again, maybe not cheap, but it's come down a long way. And I guess, DEC, but I don't think DECs were really in the same ballpark. DECs, if you bought DEC now, it's going to get you the airdrops for 2 more months, and then you could use it to pour it into Chaos Legion packs, which is interesting, but I say that's not really where I would focus. I'd be focusing on I'd probably be focusing on legendary summoners at the end of the day. But just quickly, some of the other considerations, maybe saving every other month buying 1 plot of land might be worth it. Might be. I like land. I'm buying land right now at $200. I'm buying it. I think land could be worth $5,000 per plot, and that's probably, I think that's kind of conservative, but maybe I'm being excessively bullish. So don't take that as like a prediction. Take it as with a big grain of salt. I think Rift Watchers is going to be amazing and exciting, and that's going to be a really interesting opportunity as well, just like I thought Chaos Legion would be. And I think Rift Watchers will price appreciate. Those packs will be really significantly expensive at some point in the future, just like I think Chaos Legion packs will be. So that's interesting, but I don't think that outweighs what I just said about the legendary summoners. And then what else did I talk about? We talked about land. We talked about, vouchers. Vouchers are cheap, and vouchers are going to be a meaningful part of this game, and they're going to continue to deflate because the burn mechanics. Well, they're going to inflate because we're printing more every day. But for $1.17 per day or per voucher right now, I think that's probably pretty meaningful. And I think you're going to see a price appreciation when Rift Watchers launches, which is not long away now. As I understand, it's in Q2, late Q2 or Q3. So Rift Watchers is going to come, and we're going to need vouchers, and you'll see this price ticks up again. I know we will. Plus, the validators are burning, validator sales are burning vouchers, and I think we're going to see significantly priced vouchers in the future. I think this is an interesting buy, but I don't like it nearly as much as legendary summoners or cards for rental profit or cards specifically for investment. So at the end of the day here, guys, my advice would be, if I had $100 to invest in Splinterlands, it would be focused on being selective and intentional and thoughtful about investing in cards that are going to possibly provide the perfect medley of price appreciation, rental revenue, and utility for your deck. And it can be all three. There are times where it can be. And so look for those cards, patch the holes in your deck that lets you climb farther, faster, and earn more for your time and attention, and have fun doing so, all while having that opportunity in moments where you don't want to play with them, throw them on the rental market and generate that revenue, or to enjoy that price appreciation, which summoners will uniquely provide, because summoners are a bottleneck in this game. Everyone needs summoners. Not everybody needs Tank A, but they always need summoners. And so key summoners, legendary summoners, are so important. And I think Wraith is an example of one that we're all going to want. I think we're going to see significant price appreciation there. It's going to be a great rental profit provider, and it's absolutely going to provide utility for those life teams. So guys, that's where I would land it. And Ivan, thanks for the question. I hope you feel encouraged by that. $100 is a lot. Don't beat yourselves up, guys. I see it all the time. It's not just Ivan. The comment is, I wish I was here sooner. The comment is, I wish I had more money to invest, or I can't do it because I don't have enough. These are all mistakes, and you're lying to yourself. If you just took little steps today and you committed to doing so every single day for the next 3 or 4 years, and trying to have fun while doing it, focusing on that entertainment component, the opportunity is just going to come out of that. It's going to grow out of that joy that you're really bringing to this game. So focus first on the fun and let the opportunity flow out of that. I really believe that strongly. And $100 is significant, even if it feels like, man, I was going to do so much more and now it's only $100. Put that sort of dissenting doubt aside and just focus on what you're capable of achieving and take little steps unto your ultimate goal. I really believe that'll land you somewhere meaningful. Ivan, thanks for the question. And everybody else, thanks for your time and attention. Hope you have an amazing day. God bless.